Portable TV. Come watch with me.
The European Commission is now rolling out its Democracy Action Plan, which it says is aimed at countering foreign interference from state actors. The consequences could even include full-on sanctions, and the biggest targets are, not surprisingly, China and Russia. So joining me now to discuss is RT producer Neboja Malik. All right, Neb, it's great to see you. I know this is a topic that you've covered and that you know very well, and you've referred to this specific proposal as the new Iron Curtain. So what are your biggest concerns if it is adopted by the EU?
So the European Commission actually officially announced it today, and it's part of a broader package of measures that they declared are intended to secure and defend, to protect democracy in the European Union. The irony here is that the European Commission is technically unelected, that it's delegated from these heads of state of individual EU members. And this entire Brussels bureaucracy that makes these far-reaching decisions impacting hundreds of millions of people is not really itself accountable to voters. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the ironies. The other one is obviously that according to the documents that were leaked yesterday to the U.S. propaganda outlet Radio Free Europe, of all things, these measures are basically relying on recommendations from something called the East Stratcom, or Strategic Communications Task Force, that has been tasked since 2015 on finding Russian propaganda everywhere, and their own methodology has been criticized by British scholars who have been tasked to monitor RT specifically in Russian media as just completely bogus and qualifying as disinformation by their own standards. So here we have these measures that are based on recommendations of people who are basically fraudsters and stand to personally benefit from this sort of crackdown.
Right, and we seem to have moved when it comes to the reasoning for it from election interference to now spreading COVID-19 disinformation. But of course, with all of these accusations, they never seem to include any actual evidence. So what are the concerns then if sanctions are actually enforced without showing any proof of the alleged crimes?
Well, that's the thing about sanctions. As a political weapon, you don't actually need to find somebody guilty in court to sanction them. Sanctions have always been political and have always been based on allegations rather than any sort of evidence. So no wonder governments love them. The problem with this particular set of laws, obviously, the European Commission says, oh, we're defending democracy and we're just going to go after foreign disinformation and Russia and China and evil bad media. But that's today. Tomorrow they can come after American media, theoretically. If they choose. The day after that, they can crack down on European media at home who are promoting what they call disinformation, because what's the excuse? It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, that's a good point. And especially when we're talking about a need for accountability, I mean, is there any indication that there will be any kind of accountability here? Or does it seem like they're just going to be able to slap down that label and say, oh, well, we think this is a state actor, we think that they're promoting COVID-19 disinformation, and then they expect the EU to act accordingly?
Well, there's zero accountability. As I mentioned, this summer, this group of researchers at the University of Manchester literally called out this particular group for disinformation in their accusations against RT in particular, and COVID-19 alleged misinformation that didn't exist. And they suffered no consequences whatsoever. The European Commission simply ignored it completely. Now, whether that's related to Brexit and what's Britain to us anyway, is sort of irrelevant in this case, because, again, these people are not responsible to anybody. They're basically saying, okay, well, we're advising the European Union, and who's going to tell the European Union they're wrong? The biggest part of the bigger issue here is that this particular package actually opens up the gate of regulating social media platforms, which have so far been enabling this type of censorship in an effort to get on the regulators and the government's good side. But what might happen tomorrow very easily is that you'll see Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube being forced by the EU, which doesn't have Section 230 or the First Amendment, unlike the US, to turn over their algorithms and basically submit to their regulation in terms of providing fairness, equity, or defending democracy, or some such excuse in the future.
That's an excellent point. You've got the group that is supposed to be calling out disinformation, being called out itself for disinformation, and then you've got sites like Facebook and Twitter going along with it because they don't want to be accused of doing anything that might hurt our democracy. Naboja Malik, thank you so much for your time.